The year is 1231. Picture this: a Mongol prince lies dying in the mountains of Afghanistan, an arrow wound festering in his leg. But this isn't just any prince, this is Tolui, son of the great Genghis Khan. And his death will change everything. Because in just months, his brother will unleash a fury upon the world that will shake civilizations from Baghdad to Budapest. Today we're diving into the death that sparked the Mongol war machine back to life, exploring a daring escape that saved the future of the Holy Roman Empire, witnessing the final gasps of a once mighty Islamic empire, and uncovering how a Sicilian teenager became the most powerful ruler in Europe. This is 1231. The world stands at a crossroads. Mongol armies pause at the edge of Europe. Islamic dynasties crumble. And in the heart of the continent, a young emperor named Frederick II is rewriting the rules of power itself. Let's begin in the Hindu Kush Mountains, where something extraordinary is unfolding. Tolui Khan, the youngest son of Genghis Khan and arguably the finest general of his generation, is leading Mongol forces in what should have been a routine campaign against the remnants of the Khwarezmid Empire. But routine and the Mongols rarely went hand in hand. During a siege, an arrow found its mark. Not immediately fatal, Mongol warriors were tough as iron, but the wound wouldn't heal. Infection set in. And as autumn turned to winter, one of the most feared military minds of the age slipped away. Now, you might think the death of one prince wouldn't matter much in the grand scheme of things. You'd be catastrophically wrong. Tolui's death sent shockwaves through the Mongol leadership that reached all the way back to Karakoram, their capital. Because Tolui wasn't just any general, he was regent of the empire while the succession was being decided. His brother Ogedei Khan, the great Khan himself, was devastated. But here's where it gets interesting. Tolui's death didn't weaken Mongol resolve, it crystallized it. His sons, Monkey and Kublai, swore vengeance. His brother Ogedei declared that the campaigns would continue with even greater intensity. The pause in Mongol expansion? It was about to end with unprecedented fury. Meanwhile, thousands of miles to the west, another kind of drama was unfolding in the sun-baked hills of southern Italy. Young Henry VII, son of the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II, was trapped. Not by armies or sieges, but by his own father's ruthless political calculations. Picture the scene: a 21-year-old prince who'd been crowned king of Germany, groomed for greatness, suddenly finds himself a pawn in his father's grand game. Frederick II had made a decision that shocked medieval Europe. He was willing to sacrifice his own son's political future to secure peace with the Pope and consolidate his power in Sicily. But Henry wasn't going quietly into that good night. This same year, he made a choice that would define the rest of his short life. He rebelled. Against his own father. Against the most powerful ruler in Europe. The details are worth savoring. Henry gathered supporters from among the German nobles who felt betrayed by Frederick's southern ambitions. He declared that his father had abandoned Germany for the glittering courts of Sicily. Letters flew back and forth between father and son, each more bitter than the last. "You have forgotten the land that made you strong," Henry reportedly wrote. Frederick's response was swift and merciless: "You have forgotten who made you a king." Little did either know that this family drama would reshape the Holy Roman Empire within the decade. But while father and son feuded in Italy, the last great hero of the Islamic resistance was making his final stand in Persia. Jalal ad-Din Mingburnu, the final sultan of the Khwarezmid Empire, had been running for over a decade. Running from the Mongols who had destroyed his father's empire, scattered his armies, and turned his cities to ash. This man was extraordinary. For 11 years, he'd been the thorn in the Mongol side, the ghost they couldn't catch, the ember of resistance they couldn't stamp out. He'd fought them in Afghanistan, harassed them in Persia, even dared to cross into Georgia and Armenia, raiding and recruiting as he went. But by this year, the net was finally tightening. The new Mongol campaign, energized by Tolui's death and Ogedei's determination, was methodically hunting down every last pocket of resistance. Jalal ad-Din found himself with fewer allies, smaller armies, and nowhere left to run. The irony is delicious. Here was a man who had survived the initial Mongol onslaught that destroyed his empire, who had escaped Genghis Khan himself by leaping his horse off a cliff into a river, who had rebuilt his forces time and again. And yet, he was being ground down not by a single decisive battle, but by the relentless, methodical patience of Mongol strategy. His end, when it came later that same year, was almost anticlimactic. Cornered in the mountains of Kurdistan, betrayed by supposed allies, the last great sultan of Khwarezm was finally silenced. With him died the final flicker of organized Islamic resistance to Mongol expansion in the east. Which brings us back to Sicily, where something unprecedented was happening. While his son plotted rebellion in Germany, Frederick too was busy creating what historians would later call the most advanced state in medieval Europe. Forget everything you think you know about medieval kingship. Frederick wasn't just ruling, he was experimenting. This same year, he issued the Constitutions of Melfi, a legal code so advanced, so systematic, that it wouldn't look out of place centuries later. Trial by jury. Written legal procedures. Standardized punishments. Professional judges rather than feudal lords dispensing justice. But here's the truly revolutionary part: Frederick was doing all of this while under excommunication by the Pope. Imagine that. The most powerful secular ruler in Europe, branded a heretic and enemy of God by the Church, was creating a state that actually worked better than anywhere else. His court in Palermo was unlike anything Europe had seen. Muslim mathematicians worked alongside Christian theologians. Jewish scholars translated ancient Greek texts while Norman knights trained in the courtyards. Arabic poetry was recited in the same halls where Latin hymns were sung. The sheer audacity of it all. While the rest of Europe was locked in the rigid hierarchies of feudalism, Frederick was proving that a different way was possible. Professional administrators instead of hereditary nobles. Merit-based appointments instead of feudal obligations. Written laws instead of arbitrary noble whims. His enemies called him the Antichrist. His supporters called him the wonder of the world. Both were probably right. And so we reach the end of this pivotal year. In the mountains of Afghanistan, a death that would soon unleash Mongol armies across Russia and into Europe. In Germany, a father-son conflict that would tear apart the Holy Roman Empire. In Persia, the final chapter of Islamic resistance to Mongol expansion. And in Sicily, a vision of what medieval government could become when freed from feudal constraints. Each of these stories was writing the future in ways that none of the participants could have imagined. The Mongol war machine was about to turn west. The Holy Roman Empire was fracturing from within. And the balance between religious and secular authority was shifting in ways that would echo for centuries. But that's a story for another year. Because next time, we'll witness the moment when all of these forces collide in ways that will reshape the medieval world forever. And so